Slapping me. What's up, fool? My name is Caustic, and this is my 1994 Mazda Miata. I've owned it for about maybe like 3 months now, and I've been just pretty much rolling around all stock with really blown shocks. The only upgrades I've done to it, which aren't really upgrades, it's just more of a maintenance thing. I've done upper ball joints, upper arms, lower ball joints, outer tie rods, little stuff like that. That's pretty much it. It's made quite a difference for what it is. Sun-dried tires, which perform really great, and O'Reilly brakes, which perform great unless you're going downhill. Cool, so I'm really excited to try these, I bought these Yonaka coilovers. They're really cheap, they're around the $500 range. I'm really excited how they're going to perform, mainly because my current shocks are completely blown out, so anytime I go out, it's just major bounce everywhere I go. They're decent, but you know, it's nothing crazy. So, really excited how these are going to work out, and we'll see how it goes, we'll see how the install goes, and you guys will kind of check it out.
So these Yonaka coilovers come with 6K spring rates in the front with a 4K in the rear. These have independent ride height from the shock travel. We're going to try to set them up so that he can use his full suspension stroke without grounding out, and we're going to show you how to set that up as well. So you guys have probably seen a million coilover install videos, so we're going to keep the disassembly pretty short. We're going to start with the rear, pretty simple, just removing the rear sway bar end links and then loosening the bolt on the lower control arm, 2 nuts on the top, and the shock should come out.
Oh yeah, we might have to wait more. Just like all your force. Almost there. There you go.
So we installed the coilover without the spring. This way we can check to make sure that we're going to use all of the suspension travel before we bottom out his wheel into the fender well, which is not good. So we're going to go ahead and jack this up, make sure it doesn't hit, and we're going to adjust if necessary.
That's max.
That's full travel right
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
So now that we've set the shock body length to optimize our travel, we're going to go ahead and take the shock off, take a measurement of that so we can replicate it on the other side, and we'll go ahead and install them, and that's going to be it for the rear.
13 and a half.
13 and a half?
Yep.
So we got the spring back on. We set our shock body overall length to 13 and a half inches. We're going to go ahead and replicate that to the other side. And we set our spring preload just enough so that we can still rotate the spring within the collars. And that's going to make sure that we have no preload, which is what you want for the most part.
I agree.
Alright, so we got the springs back on. We've replicated the height to both sides on the rear. We're going to go ahead and throw them on the car, and then we're going to move on to the fronts.
Let go.
Gonna run it like that?
Me at the toe. I'm just like, whoa! Togue life. What the fuck is a torque spec? Look at all that. That's definitely lower.
Alright, so we got the rear done. Turn the car around, about to start on the front. Same process. Nismo is going to help us. He's already been a big help. I mean, without him, we honestly couldn't have even have done this job.
Certifications and he's
Yeah.
a veteran in the field, so he's good. Alright, bro, so I got a LS3 swap. Supercharged LS3, got the Monster Miata kit on it. I can't even do it.
Alright, so now we're starting on the fronts. As you can see, these stock front struts have seen better days.
Correction. These shocks have seen a better decade.
Yeah, these shocks have seen a better decade, that's for sure. So we're just going to start by removing one of the bolts of the end links on both sides. Remove the upper control arms, 2 nuts on top of the strut, 1 on the bottom lower control arm, and then this thing's going to be out of there. Alright, now that we got the long bolt out, the upper control arm is loose and we're ready to pull the shock out. So we're jacking up now. There's all the suspension travel that it's going to be using. And now we're going to make sure that it's not going to be rubbing, and it's hella rubbing. So as you can see at full bump, we're bottoming out on this fender well. You can hear it rubbing. So what we're going to have to do is adjust the shock body length so that we're using all the travel before he bottoms out the tire into the fender well.
Needs to go higher.
Alright, so we got the coilovers matched, preload is matched to hand tight. We got the length set to 16.5 inches. We're going to add some high temp Jesus juice to this so that we can adjust it easier later. It's not going to get seized on us like my coilovers. We're going to go ahead and install them, and we're going to check how the ride height is, and we should be good to go. So reinstalling the coilover is just as easy. We're just going to pop it in, get the 2 nuts on top, get this lower control arm long bolt through, bolt it to the lower control arm, and we should be ready to rock. Alright, so we finished up the fronts. We ended up having to raise it about 1/2 inch, just a little bit too low. So we set it up to where you can use all his travel, and he's not going to bottom out his wheel into his fender well before he does that. And now we're just going to drop it on the ground and see how it looks. Alright, so we finished up the install. This is how she's looking now compared to stock. We're running about 2 fingers, fender to tire, and this is also going to settle a little bit, so it's going to be lower. So far, it feels a lot better than blown struts, that's for sure.
This is like right here. Normally I would balance like right here. It just crawls over it. That's crazy.
It's crazy how much just lowering a car changes the whole look of it. This thing was just monster trucking before. You stoked or what?
I'm fucking ecstatic right now.
Yeah, now that it's 3 a.m. and we gotta wake up in 4 hours, but it was worth it.
I'll still be ecstatic in 4 hours. It's gonna be worth the drive to work.
Hell yeah.